Hello everyone, my name is Brayden, this is Airless Quill 9, and in today's video, we are going to take a look at the Demon of Disaster, known as the Goristro. So, Goristros are terrifying in scale and overwhelming power. They are these giant demons capable of bringing cities to ruin. These demons embody senseless anarchy and nihilistic destruction, and they take special offense at creatures or structures that rival them in size. Castles, towers, giants, and beasts of war are all common victims of these monsters' wrath. Goristros resemble hunched primeval minotaurs, bearing the scars of abyssal wars or wounds from mighty war machines. Their appearance reflects that of their creator, Baphomet, the demon lord worshipped by many evil minotaurs. Goristros stalk Baphomet's abyssal realm, known as the Endless Maze, and pulp any non-demons they encounter in that massive magical labyrinth. So the Goristro is a pretty interesting foe. It is a high challenge rating demon, and we are going to take a look at it today. So let's go ahead and look at the 2024 stat block, and then we will talk about how it compares to the 2014 version. Alrighty, so the Goristro is a huge demon, a fiend, and they are chaotic evil in alignment. They have an armor class of 19, an initiative of +6, 310 hit points, and a speed of 50 feet. For their ability scores, they have a strength of 25, a dexterity of 11, a constitution of 25, an intelligence of 6, a wisdom of 13, and a charisma of 14. They're also proficient in strength, dexterity, constitution, and wisdom saving throws. For skills, they have perception at +7 and survival at +7. They are resistant to cold, fire, and lightning damage. They are immune to poison damage as well as the poison condition. Senses, they have 120 feet of dark vision as well as a passive perception of 17. Languages, they know Abyssal, and the Goristro is a challenge rating 17 monster, giving it 18,000 experience points and a proficiency bonus of +6. In its traits, the Goristro has demonic restoration. This states that if the Goristro dies outside the abyss, its body dissolves into ichor, and it gains a new body instantly, reviving with all of its hit points somewhere in the abyss. Magic resistance simply grants the Goristro advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. And finally, Siege Monster states that the Goristro deals double damage to objects and structures. In the action section, the Goristro has a multi-attack, allowing it to make 1 Brutal Gore attack and 2 Slam attacks. Brutal Gore is a melee attack roll with a +13 to hit and a reach of 10 feet. On a hit, it deals 6d10 +7 piercing damage, and if the target is a huge or smaller creature, it is pushed up to 20 feet straight away from the Goristro and has the prone condition. Slam is a melee attack roll with a +13 to hit and a reach of 10 feet, and on a hit with Slam, it deals 4d10 +7 bludgeoning damage. Finally, the Goristro has a bonus action called Charge. This allows it to move up to half its speed straight towards an enemy it can see. And yeah, that is everything in the 2024 Goristro stat block. So let's go ahead and talk about what changes have been made to the stat block since 2014. So there are a number of interesting changes here. First off, the initiative bonus for the Goristro has been increased. It is now proficient in initiative rolls, so that is why it now has a +6 instead of what would have been a +0. The movement speed on the Goristro has also increased from 40 feet to 50 feet in 2024, which is quite nice. And survival is now an additional skill present in the skills section there that was not present before. So that is a nice addition there. This probably comes from the fact that the labyrinthine recall trait has been removed. This allowed the Goristro to perfectly recall any path it had traveled previously. So with the removal of that trait from the stat block, it kind of makes sense they would have given it proficiency in survival. Finally, there's a small change to the resistances section. They have removed resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. This is because that resistance no longer has any functionality in the 2024 rule set for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, so they have removed that completely from resistances. However, the Goristro is still just as much of a tank as before, if not more so now. The demonic restoration trait, of course, is entirely new to 2024. And now we get to the major changes to the stat block. First off, there is a small change to the multi-attack. The Goristro now makes 1 brutal gore attack and 2 slam attacks. In 2014, this used to be 3 attacks, 2 with its fists and 1 with its hoof. It also had a gore attack that it could use, but that was not a part of its actual multi-attack. Now, there have been some changes to the actual gore part of this. So gore is now brutal gore, so it's received a name change. The damage has been reduced from 7d10 to 6d10, so a small decrease in damage, though as I stated before, it was not a part of the multi-attack, so that is kind of an improvement there. The gore now automatically prones and pushes a creature if they're huge or smaller, so that is a improvement there to the gore as well. And slam is now kind of a consolidation of both those fist and hoof attacks. In 2014, the hoof dealt the closest approximate damage to this, and it was 3d10 bludgeoning damage. So if anything, slam is now a better version of the fist and hoof attacks together. And some of the functionality of hoof has actually moved into gore, because hoof used to knock creatures prone if they failed a DC 21 strength save. So that is now present there in the brutal gore attack, kind of. And slam is just a better overall attack. So overall, the actual damage potential of the Goristro is a slight bit better, because it used to deal additional damage if the Goristro moved at least 15 feet straight towards a target and then hit it with a gore attack on the same turn. This was an extra 7d10 damage. So on average, the charge with the gore dealt approximately 83 damage about. So there was some decent damage there. But with the changes now to the multi-attack section, and there not being any conditional damage options in here, the average damage for the Goristro is now sitting at almost 100. It's actually at 98. So the average damage of the Goristro is now much higher than it was before in 2014. So that is a major improvement there, which is quite nice to see. We also haven't even talked about the new bonus action that the Goristro has in 2024, and this is the charge bonus action. This really just gives it an additional way to gain some movement on its turn. I mean, half of its speed straight towards an enemy is 25 feet, so that is pretty great there. So I'm not going to say anything negative about that. That gives the Goristro the potential to move 75 feet on its turn, so that's pretty decent in my opinion. And now all of its attacks are dealing a lot more damage. They all also now have a reach of 10 feet, which the previous attacks for the Goristro did not all have that reach, so that is pretty great as well. So overall, I think there have been some major improvements to the Goristro, and it is a much better designed stat block than it was before, and it is going to be moving a lot more in this iteration than it was before. So this is a pretty potent fiend to face. It is going to be moving across the battlefield towards players with intent, and it is going to mess them up with its multi-attack. So I quite like the design changes to this stat block, and I think it's going to be very good for the game. Alrighty, that's going to be it for this particular video, so thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please give the video a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I appreciate everyone's support on these videos. These videos release weekly or every weekday, so keep an eye out for those. But until the next one, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later.